this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 ways to architect your own reality, understanding the deeper fundamental thread that underlies all of us. It's understanding the probability that we live in a form of simulation. I'm going to share with you what that means and how to consciously manifest through it. Welcome back to another video. My name's Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, we're going to be going deep on understanding more on what is called the simulation theory. This is a theory that it is highly probable that we do live in a form of simulation, and there are certain tell signs that this is the case as well. Like, for example, if you look at what we can interpret through our senses, we can interpret a certain range of frequency. We could say that everything in our life is a form of vibration. That is what quantum physics shows us. It is just simply vibrating at a different frequency. And we have these sense perceptions, and these sense perceptions can digest and translate different vibrational interpretations. Think of it like this. We can see between infrared and ultraviolet. We can hear a certain decibel range, but we can't hear the range or the sound of a dog whistle, for example. But does that mean that the dog whistle sound doesn't exist? Of course, we know it does exist, but we can only hear in between that range. We can only see, and we don't see necessarily X-ray. We don't see gamma ray. There's certain levels of light frequency that we don't see. There is certain levels of size of molecules that we can and can't see. This has to do with understanding just our senses in general. Our senses are interpreting vibration. Now, what we believe to be true is something that's reflected back to us in our life. So depending on our perceptions, on how we relate to the world that we live in, that will have a determining factor of how we feel, which then is also translated into what we experience. So becoming aware of this intimate correlation between how we think, how and what we believe to what we experience, we can start to see that in a way things are very predictable when it comes to the momentum that we already have going on. Now, one of the biggest misconceptions with this whole simulation theory is believing that we live in like some little computer box, or living and having this negative connotation around it. Here is the thing. Knowing and being aware that it is highly probable that we live in a form of virtual reality or a simulation is very empowering. Now let me tell you why. Now, this is only given negative connotation because of what we see in the movies or the way we think about it when we think of technology. We think of technology as very unreal, very inorganic, and very like as if we lived in a computer. We can let that go though. This is how we can begin to see the process. We can begin to know that at a higher level of consciousness, what we may have wanted to do was to have a way of experiencing more things in a shorter amount of time with limitation. Now, from a higher level of consciousness, I believe that we are, quote, asleep, dreaming that we are here. And the way we dream that we're here is we log into the reality of this virtual reality of this simulation so we can have a certain experience. Now, we are still connected to that higher self version of us. We're still connected. That is actually really more of who we are. But we have simply agreed to forget for a certain period of time and to come here to have some type of experience, because unless we forget who we are, we don't have a complete experience. It's almost like if we knew we were playing a video game and we knew it in the video game, we might not take it as seriously as if we actually thought that that character is who we are. So the key is we go through this life experience, we experience that of the understanding of, I was making sure that my mic was still on. We were making sure that we experience and we have this kind of experience so that we can see where we are and how and what we learn. But if we are always going away and we are always thinking that there was no correlation between what we think and what we experience, if we were thinking and identifying and not knowing that this avatar is, quote, real, then we wouldn't take it as seriously. Now, this is very empowering because what this means is that you are so much more than you priorly thought. That at a higher level consciousness, you exist, and that's actually more of who you really are. It's simply that you've decided to come through into life at this moment in time because there may have been a couple intentions that you had. And some of these intentions may be to experience life with other people, to go through a form of transformation, to remember that you logged into this game of life, and to also, in a way, upgrade your abilities. You upgrade your abilities when you become more aware of who you are. You then have more ability to focus and to see the correlation between what you think and what you experience. But if you are unconsciously aware of it, you can't actually go in the direction that you want because you don't know what you want, or you don't know what experience or what you're currently thinking. So this, I believe, is very empowering. And when we see that, we can then see that if for us to create what we want, it has to do with understanding the energy dynamics. It has to do with understanding the awareness to what we're thinking. It has to do with understanding many different forms of this perspective. Now, in general, here is one of the things that happens when we incarnate into this simulated reality, this virtual reality. There's many different virtual realities, by the way. We could call these all simulations, all virtual realities, and we could think of it in the form of, it's just different experiences, different tastes. There's one in different solar systems, different universes, but nonetheless, they're all for experience. They're also for a period of time we can identify with the flesh body and believe that we go through this linear time-space reality, which is a very short sliver of time, and then go on to another experience because we are eternal beings and we want this contrast of experience. And there's always something to be learned as well. It's like, well, maybe I went through a lot of pain. You're telling me that wasn't real? I'm not saying it's not real. The experience of being in a virtual reality or being in this reality is real, but at a fundamental level, we do have to ask the question, what is real? Is what is real what we define with our senses? Is what is real the higher level consciousness that we are? It depends on the perception that we have. Now, let's look at, this is something I've been tapping into, I've been sharing on the YouTube channel for a while now, and it's something I find very powerful. It's understanding the system itself of the simulation that we live in. We call this the universe. Let's just call it the universe, because most people, when it comes to manifestation, will say the universe. I want the universe showed me this, or the universe, I want to align with it. This is something that I found to be very powerful. It's often misoverlooked. The system itself has an intention. The system itself has this intention to do something that is called lower entropy. Entropy you can think of as chaos, disorder, particles that are very spread out. Now we are always expanding, but at the same time, the goal of the current simulation we're in is to grow, is to progress, but at the same time, it's to lower entropy. When we lower entropy, we increase love, because the goal of this system is to become that which we naturally are, which is love. So what this allows us to do is to learn things in this experience, because mostly everything comes back to love. Think about it. If you act out against somebody that you love, you normally regret it. You normally then understand that the only time you really make the right choice is when you choose love. Love is naturally who we are. The higher level version of us is rooted in love. That is who we naturally are. But we have forgotten this because we've come into this experience with the intention of remembering, with the intention of seeing the correlation between what we think and what we experience. But that's why the first way to architect your own reality is to understand the intention of reality in general, the simulation we live in. That is to increase love and to lower chaos. So this is when we ask ourselves the question, am I doing and am I adding love to the world? Am I becoming more efficient? Am I progressing myself? When you start to ask these questions, you start to get a new effect in your life. And if you start to see that you're experiencing a lot of blocks in your life, could it be because you haven't tapped into the desire to feel more love, and to the embodiment of the love that you naturally are, and sharing the love with other people. That is the fundamental core of the universe. Now, here's the other thing of this. Manifesting and architecting in this simulation reality is about lowering the entropy, which means increasing the love, and also adding value to other people. The universe, or the simulation, or the virtual reality we live in, will help you out when you add more value to people around you. This doesn't mean that you have to make YouTube videos or you have to do kind of what I'm doing. I'm not saying that. I am saying that if you add value to people in your family, if you make people feel better, if you add value by you being you, you're adding value to the system itself, because you being you following your passion, the passion is your body's translation that is telling you, it's your body's translation that's letting you know, hey, this is what you're meant to be doing in your life. And if you follow that thread, it will lead you to architect your reality in a way that you could never even think possible before. So that's the first way you manifest your own reality, is by understanding how to align with the universe by adding value to other people and increasing the love in your life and lowering the entropy, lowering the chaos. That's my intention with a lot of my videos, is to help people become more at the core of who they are and to gain their power back from maybe giving it away. Because that's something I went through growing up. I went through I felt like I didn't have my power. So when I went through that as a kid and I grew up, now it's like I want to help people to do the same thing in a different way. Now, the second way we architect our own reality is understanding probabilities. Now, within the system that we live in, there's an infinite number of probabilities. We could also call these parallel realities. And what we do is we increase certain things happening when we set intentions. Intentions and aligning that with our emotion is the secret to us manifesting anything we want. The emotion, the focus, the intention. If we simply combine these two things, things begin to radically change in our life. Now, what we do is when we set intentions, we increase the probability of something happening. If you get into your car to go somewhere and you set the intention you have a safe drive, you've increased the probability of you having a safe drive. If you set an intention that when you call your mom or a family member, that you connect with them over the phone, and you don't just talk to them on the phone, but you connect to them and you make them feel like you care. If you set that intention, when you talk to them on the phone, they will feel that from you. It's about setting more intentions, because when you set intentions, you increase the probability of things happening. The question is never, is something possible? It is always possible. The question is it probable? You make something probable when you set intentions. It's about understanding the power of setting intentions, because when you do that, everything starts to align. Now, in general, what I found is the more I follow my passion, the more I have a higher frequency, so my intentions become more powerful. That's something that I found as well. So what I encourage you to do is to pay attention to what that may be. What is your passion? What do you love doing? Because as you find that out, you'll see ways of using that and ways of applying it. So intention, everything is possible. The question is it probable? And you make it probable with setting your intention. Now, the third way you architect your own reality has to do with understanding the avatar itself. Now, you are more than your avatar. But sometimes we identify so much with the avatar, we could call that the ego, that we think this is who we are. What I have found very helpful is viewing myself in a way where I can observe the different characteristics of my life, almost like looking at myself as an avatar. And the way that I see that, I'm logged into an experience. So I can almost look at myself sometimes from the third person and say, Aaron is doing this. And by doing that, I shift my perspective to the higher self. I still know that this is an aspect of me, but I don't identify with it as much. And what I do is I can then see it in a more neutral type state. It's almost like, unless we see it from this point of view, we're blinded by our own beliefs. Because, this is just the way reality is. But knowing that I am more than my avatar, I am more than this just experience that I'm having, that I think I'm able to observe my thoughts and see why I get what I get in my life. Maybe ask yourself the same questions. This may seem kind of harsh at first, but you could be like, why am I getting what I'm getting in life? And maybe you're experiencing some of what you don't like. So you say, am I attracting that? Well, there's something in your vibrational frequency. There's something in the beliefs that you have that architect your reality that's causing that belief. It may be something from childhood, it may be a whole bunch of different things, but become aware of what that is, and as you can observe it from a neutral place, you can then start to take your power back. This is about you becoming aware of who you are, and at the same time becoming aware of the avatar and the different perspectives you may have, because as you become aware of that, you can then decide how you take your power back. Sometimes I look at certain patterns in my life and I'm like, oh yeah, look at that. I should be doing this a little bit differently. Or I see things that are just kind of like, oh, I'm stubborn in certain ways. I'm very disciplined with a lot of things I do because of how focused my vision is, but at the same time, I see how that can hurt me, and sometimes that stubbornness gets in its way. So I become aware of it, I'm like, oh, and then I can change it. So observation is the key to this, observing it from a neutral place. Because when we observe it, we start to gain the power back. So remember, you are so much more than you can possibly imagine. You, in a higher level of consciousness, exists right now. You're simply dreaming that this is who you are. So knowing that, you can begin to have more fun and to understand that this is a fun experience. You're meant to gain your power back, to then manifest what you want. And remember, the ways you can do that is first off understanding the intention of the system itself, which is to lower entropy and to increase love. When you add value to other people, when you're doing what you're passionate about, you increase that love in your life, and you add value to other people, which the system will then help you in the process. Secondly, you become aware of your intentions. You simply set more intentions. By set more intentions, you're going to be increasing the probability of things happening. And then thirdly, become aware of the avatar itself, observe those thoughts, and then architect the direction that you want to go. As you have that perspective, things will change in a very powerful way. Now, I've created as well a free guided meditation that will help you to raise your vibrational set point. This will help you to raise to that higher level consciousness I was talking about. This will help you to raise up to that point so that you manifest things easier than ever. I recommend you listen to it for 21 days to get the maximum benefit out of it. And I think if you do, it will dramatically change your life. Just go and be in the top of the description box right below. Also, I'll be doing more live Q&As on Instagram, so if you want to ask me questions, I'll go ahead and link that below as well. I also post daily content there too. And other than that, as always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the little notification bell next to the subscribe button so that you can see the daily vids that I do, the way YouTube does things now. So in order to see the vids I do, you actually have to hit that button. And other than that, as always, peace, much love, and namaste.